Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today I'm gonna be breaking down some film on JayQuan Snell. So, man, I was looking at the Downfield game. I can't think of the name of the team that JayQuan Snell plays for, but it's this team right here. They played and I seen the game on YouTube, the condensed version. I didn't watch the full game, and man, this dude just stood out to me. Just seeing the hits he was making, seeing the plays he made, play after play. I mean, like I said, from the hits, from the ridiculous sideline interception he got, and even to the last stands he had. They got defensively they made when he came and made the tackle in the backfield. I was like, man, let me go search this dude up and just see what he was about. So I went and pulled up his huddle, and obviously, man, you know, exactly what I seen last night or that day particular when I was watching that game is exactly what I seen in that huddle. So I was like, man, this kid really been like that. And it's crazy to think that he's only a junior, so he still has 1 year left after that. So just seeing that seeing the playmaker he was last year as a sophomore, and just seeing that on display. And keep in mind, that was against Downfield too, one of the top teams in not just Texas but the nation. So this wasn't against lesser competition. This was against stellar competition. So I was like, man, I got to go do some film study on him, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So the very first play, man, you see you got a red zone possession. Obviously, man, you know, when you get into the red zone, you always hear me say it's a got-to-have-it situation if you watch my videos, whether it's a first down, second down, third down, or even fourth down. And the easiest way to score in the red zone is simply just running the ball in, because you want to try to avoid throwing as much as you can, just because you don't want especially with inexperienced quarterbacks, I would say that you don't want those quarterbacks to have to be thrown into ugly pitchers, meaning that it's going to be a lot of defenders in the area. Now, one of the benefits of the red zone is that now it takes away from the threat deep. So now you don't have to worry about the defense really being stretched vertically, because everything is so more condensed and tight. So that's an added benefit to have a safety just like JayQuan Snell, who don't mind coming downhill and sticking his nose down the run play, exactly like he did right here. So you see, it looked like they had him at first, and initially you had two guys that had a shot at him. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, you had two guys that had a shot at him. You had the defensive lineman right there that got penetration. He slipped from that. Then, like, you had another defensive lineman that had a shot at him. He also was able to slip from that. JayQuan Snell just, kept his eyes in the backfield, seen what was going on, and obviously, man, just came downhill with bad intentions and just laid the pop on him and actually forced the fumble. So he did a good job at getting his head right there on the football to be able to force the fumble. And, that's always a good that's a similar trait that all good defenses have, or is being able to take away the football. So having a guy like that can draw the football loose with just those strong power tackles are always an added benefit. So one of the things that, I wouldn't say surprised me about him, but normally when you see safeties that's as physical as he is, more times than not, they kind of sometimes can be liabilities in pass coverage. Obviously, when it comes to defending a run, they're A1, they're studs, but a lot of times in pass coverage, they can be liabilities. But that's not necessarily the case with him, because even like I said, when you look at the Downfield game, he made some big hits in that game, but he also came up with a ridiculous interception. Like I say, when I say ridiculous, I mean it was an interception where he kind of just tight roped the sideline and was able to get 2 feet in bounds to secure the interception. And those are catches that some receivers can't even make. You know what I mean? And it's kind of similar to this one right here. So you see, it looks like they had him in man coverage. It looked like they were running a cover one with a single high safety, and that kind of just left man across the board. You look at him, he was matched up against it depends on which way you're looking at it from the formation. If you're looking at it from the inside out, he was matched up against the third receiver. Now, if you're looking at it from the outside in, he was matched up against inside out, he was matched up against the number one receiver, my bad. And from the outside in, he was matched up against the number third receiver. So they had him matched up with the third receiver in the slot. And he just did a good job, man, really just kind of playing it. He kind of was in off coverage position, which was allowing for him to kind of get his eyes on the quarterback. And then one of those things, too, that you can kind of just watch the quarterback steps, especially when you're playing off man-to-man coverage. You kind of can look at the quarterback drop back steps to kind of anticipate exactly what it is he's running. And then also, too, considering that the guy that you're guarding is closer to the line of scrimmage, you kind of can anticipate that it's probably going to be something out breaking more times than not, because you got to ask yourself, why is he lined up there? So he just does a good job at, taking away the inside leverage and kind of forcing them outside and making the quarterback have to throw a harder completion, which trying to throw this route that he's throwing is a very difficult route to throw. It takes precise precision to be able to execute that, because if he overthrows it, it's going out of bounds. And if he underthrows it, it's going to be an interception, just like right here. Like I said, JayQuan Snell just did a good job at taking away the inside option for him, kind of forcing them outside. And he just did a good job at reading that, being able to get his head back around, track the ball in the air, and be able to make the interception and get both feet in bounds again. So just like I said in the Downfield game, where he had a nice sideline interception, the same thing here, comes up with a beautiful sideline interception. So right here on this play, they just do like they kind of like they might have ran a might have sent him in motion. The pass catcher, like they might have sent him in motion from one side of the formation, and then end up putting him out in space on the other side of the formation. But JayQuan Snell just does a good job at obviously, man, realizing sniffing out what was going on. And that's something else I see that he's real good at too. It's like he kind of just plays with instinct in a sense. You know, it's like he's able to see those things develop, and as they develop, and be able to just react quicker than other defenders might be able to. So you see right here, you got the first guy. He's able to slow him down, but he's able to make the first guy miss and be able to eat up some yards after the catch. But JayQuan Snell does a good job of coming downhill from his safety position to minimize the yards gained on this play. He also does a good job on the tackle in terms of just not, getting his head off the line, off the direct line, getting his head off to the side and kind of just leading with his shoulder. Now, one of the things I will say that, I would like to see from him a little bit more is just being able to, wrap up whenever he's tackling. Obviously, the higher you get up, especially going over to college, those guys become a little bit more bigger, and those guys get a little bit more better at contact balance and being able to stay on their feet. And then you just never know sometimes the situation, man. It could be a crucial third down situation or a crucial fourth down situation where you do everything right, but don't necessarily secure the tackle because you're leading with just your shoulder, and a guy bounce off and run for extra yards, and they can be the deciding factor in games won and lost. But in terms of instinct and just realizing what's happening and being able to react, being able to close the distance, and being able to just minimize the yards after the catch, that was just phenomenal on his part. So on this play right here, I'm not quite sure exactly what was going on, whether it was just some miscommunication or whether it was just a blown assignment, but he just does a good job at not giving up on the play. Most people probably would have just been like, oh, man, it is what it is, and just kind of just let it be that. He just didn't give up on it. He pursued the guy downfield and was able to come up with a forced fumble. Once again, like I said, man, all the key traits to all good defenses, whether it's at high school level, whether it's at the college level, or whether it's at the NFL level, is the ability to be able to take the ball away from the opposing offense. And right here, he just does a good job at being able to come up behind the receiver, kind of paid attention, that probably was looking at how he was carrying the ball and seeing that he had opportunity to be able to just pull that thing free from him. And I'm pretty sure that the receiver probably got a little careless in a sense, just thinking that he probably was that far away from the defense, and kind of got a little bit sloppy with the ball handling, or it could have just been technique on his part, just being taught that whenever we in this pursuit position, this is the target points of the football to be able to pull it out. And he just does a good job at being able to execute the fumble and being able to actually to recover the fumble himself. So right here, you got him matched up in some man-to-man coverage again. You got him matched up in a one-on-one situation with the slot receiver. So he's playing off man-to-man coverage, which gives the receiver a free release. Now, one of the benefits for the defender is, for one, it allows you to kind of have eyes on the quarterback. So when you're playing off man-to-man coverage like that, you're kind of looking at the quarterback as well to just kind of see his steps. How far is he dropping back? Because that kind of lets you know exactly what route that he's going to be run, that whatever route that the receiver is probably going to be running. Now, granted, once again, once you get closer to the end zone, it takes away from a lot of the vertical threat. So now it also does kind of limit some of the options that a receiver can run, obviously. But when you're in the inside, the easiest throw would have been inside route, kind of like what they tried to throw right here. JayQuan Snell just does a good job at being able to get his eyes on the quarterback, and then just kind of be able to have a balance of being able to get your eyes on the quarterback, but then also keep getting your eyes on the receiver. Now, one thing that he did phenomenal that I see that a lot of guys do a lot of guys don't do whenever they playing off man-to-man coverage is he did a good job at staying square. Most people that whenever they are playing off man coverage, like well before the distance is even closed between them and the receiver, they kind of open up their hips a little prematurely, and it puts them in a very bad position. So right here, he just does a good job at being able to stay square. So he kind of utilizes what we call a weave technique, where you just kind of mirror the receiver's movement. You see the receiver goes inside. He just does a good job at kind of shuffling and staying squared and being able to stay over the top of him. And obviously, the quicker the distance that he starts to close and get closer to the defender, then you're going to you're going to open up your hips. But right here, he plays that as good as he can play it. You probably would want to see him get out of his break just a tad bit faster, because he kind of still, based off of leverage, from a leverage standpoint, he kind of just had a step on him right here coming out of that. But he just does a good job at, once again, not giving up on the play, and being able to play the receiver's hands and just being able to go up and knock the ball out of his hands for a pass breakup. So on this play right here, JayQuan Snell and the other safety both have an interesting alignment. I haven't never really seen an alignment like that. You look at the offense, they're in a 2-by-2. So you see that they have a corner over the top, under closer to the line of scrimmage. Then you got a safety playing over the top. But when you're looking at how they're aligned, normally, safeties typically would have their shoulder square, even if it was man or zone coverage. But right here, pre-snap, they're kind of have their butts facing the quarterback in a sense. Like they're kind of just really keyed in on their receiver. So that was kind of interesting, and that might just be a technique that the coaches have taught them up there at that school. Like, this is how we play that. This is how we play. This is how our stance is based off of certain formations or whatever the case may be. So right here, they end up in man-to-man coverage. Obviously, on one of the things you want to do too. And they did a good job at how they played it with staying off of the same level to be able to cause those natural pick and rub routes. So having a guy kind of closer to the line and having a guy over the top. And they probably kind of just played the banjo technique. If they release this way, then I take this guy. If this guy released that way, then you take this guy. But he just does a good job at, once again, man, being able to play the man-to-man coverage. You got the receiver who kind of starts stemming up close, up vertically with him. And once again, man, he just does a good job at being able to keep his shoulders square on that. Once again, he's in off man-to-man coverage. So, eventually the receiver is going to get to you at some point. So he just does a good job at being able to stay patient and not panicking. And like I said, most time, a lot of corners usually, or corners or safeties or defenders, period, normally open up their hips a little too prematurely, and they put themselves in bad position in terms of leverage. But he just does a good job at, once again, man, being able to maintain that square stance and kind of just mirroring whatever the receiver does. Let's take another look at that, man. Like I said, man, just does a good job at shuffling his feet, being able to stay on top of it, and forcing an incompletion. One of the things you see, too, is their confidence in their DBs, in their man-to-man coverage, because you see that a few times that they're running a cover zero, meaning that there's no over-the-top help, similar to this play right here. So once again, you got him matched up in a slot against a slot receiver, and, got some space to work with. Obviously, you kind of, if you're looking at it from a corner's perspective or a defender's perspective, you kind of just trying to say, okay, what is his alignment? What is his split? Is he lined up with a tighter split or a wider split? Obviously, but by him being lined up with a tighter split, he has a two-way go. He can, he can attack, well, really a three-way if you want to be honest, because he can attack vertically and then he can attack towards the outside of the inside. It gives you that option now, because being outside the numbers and lined up out wide, it takes away from some possibilities of routes that you can run because you have that sideline working against you. But when you right here, you in no man's land right here in terms of being a defensive back and trying to cover, because it's so many more routes now that you have to be able to defend. So once again, he just does a good job at shading towards the inside, trying to take away the inside leverage. He's playing off man. So once again, obviously, you kind of can just keep, get your eyes in the backfield, even if it's for a brief second, to just kind of, like I said, once again, look at the quarterback's steps and his drops to kind of just anticipate exactly what it is that they're running. He just does a good job, once again, man, at playing off coverage, maintaining that square stance. That way it allows for him to be able to react and break on the ball quicker, opposed to opening up his hips prematurely and then making it that much difficult for him to be able to break on the ball and be able to make a play on the ball. But right here, he just does a good job at staying square. Now, some people might say, oh, this might have been pass interference. I don't necessarily think so. And the reason why I say that is because the receiver ran straight into him. Now, when you're playing good coverage like this, those are possibilities of it happening. That's why it's a such thing called offensive pass interference. So to me, this was good coverage. The receiver ran straight into him. So obviously he was engaging with him. So he did a good job at staying active with his hands to try to take away from the receiver, potentially trying to use his hands to maybe trying to push him off, or to try to use his hands to try to create some separation from the route. He does a good job at being able to get his hands on him, and that led to the quarterback having to go elsewhere with the ball. So once again, like I said, man, you can tell that this coach has confidence in his secondary, because you see that from a few of these plays, we've seen that they were running a cover zero, which is no over the top help. It's just man all across the board. They send the house at him right here on this blitz, and they're able to get prepared. Like, you just had a guy running freely at the quarterback. But once again, I'm just looking at the technique in terms of JayQuan Smith. And once again, man, he just does a good job at just being patient, man. Like, that's one of the things I would say about him too, outside of just the physicality when it comes to being being able to lay those hits. But in terms of his pass coverage, he's very patient. You know, like I said, we're running a lot of off-man coverage. To me, in order to be successful at that as a defender, you have to not be a panic. You have to be able to prevent yourself from being in panic mode, because I think that when you put yourself in panic mode, that's when you start to open up your hips prematurely and put yourself in just bad positioning. So even like right here on this route, let's just say, for instance, if he was kind of trying to run some type of, double move or some type of stutter to try to get him off of his square, he just did a good job at not biting it and just staying square and staying over the top of everything. And obviously with the rush getting there, the quarterback had to just get rid of the ball quicker than he may have wanted, and he almost ended up possibly coming up with an interception. I think what has been more impressive to me breaking down film on him, man, was based off what I saw in the Duncanville game. I just was anticipating it just to be highlights and film of just big hits, big hits, big hits, big hits. But, man, his pass coverage has really been what's impressed me, man. We've seen several times that they've had him matched up in cover zero, meaning that there was no over-the-top help. If he gets beat more times than not, that's a touchdown. But he shows that he's up to the task to be able to do it. So right here, it looks like they end up running another man-to-man coverage once again. You get him matched up on a slot guy. He's playing off coverage, playing really, really, really off, just trying to prevent the threat of him being able to attack him down the field. But once again, like I said, man, one of the benefits of playing off coverage is, for one, you get your eyes into the backfield and the quarterback, and you kind of can just look at the quarterback drops to kind of anticipate exactly what it is that he's doing. But then it also takes away from the ability, for one, it allows you to possibly be able to make more plays on the balls now, because now your eyes are already back to the quarterback in a sense. So if he runs anything underneath, you can drive downhill immediately because you can see it coming, especially if the receiver isn't really quick in being able to get in and out of his breaks. But right here, man, he just does a good job at being able to stay over the top of the receiver. And I wish I could see what happened, like full view to kind of just see how it was at the top of it. But just looking at where he was at the top in terms of positioning, it seems like he did a good job at kind of just trying to funnel the receiver towards out of bounds line. And obviously, man, that's a very difficult throw for the quarterback to try to make. But it just was a phenomenal rep on his part. For one, just looking at where he was at once they put the camera back on him, seeing that he was over the top of the receiver, it took away anything deep, and then it kind of just forced him to forced the quarterback to have to throw a perfect pass, which he, threw the best that he could throw on that route. He just does a good job at being able to locate the ball, play the ball in the air, and being able to come up with a pass breakup. And I think that that's one of the big staples, especially if you're trying to go to the next level and play for like top programs. You have to be able to play the ball in a deep part of the field, and so far we've seen him do that with a lot of success. So right here, this is one of those plays right here. You kind of just see his instincts kick in. Now, this could be one of those things where it can just be natural instincts, or it could have just been preparation and understanding exactly what it is that this offense wants to do and what they're trying to accomplish in certain looks. He's able to just kind of see this thing coming. Now, it looks like they just ran like a little simple swing route to the to the running back. You got the receiver out front that was like was the lead blocker, but it looked like that was actually the design, because you see the wide receiver just goes out immediately to block, opposed to actually running a route. So it looks like they might have been in man coverage. So he just does a good job at being able to see and react. And you got some guys, man, that they just really be out there playing on instincts. It's like they see things happening before it happened. And if you ask them how they knew that, they probably couldn't even tell you, because they're really out there playing on instincts. And then also, too, one of the big things, especially all good defenses, another trait that all good defenses have outside of being able to take away the ball is being able to make tackles in open space, being able to minimize the gain. And I think that a big part of being able to make open space tackles, for one, a big part of being able to be a sure tackler, for one, is being able to close the distance. So you see right here, as soon as he realizes that he's going out for a route, he's already coming downhill. So he doesn't give the running back an option to be able to catch the ball, tuck it, and get upfield. He closes the distance very, very quickly, which prevents the running back from being able to have an opportunity to be able to make him miss. And once again, like I said, man, we've seen a lot of his hits just coming in, leading with the shoulder, and just not really necessarily wrapping up. And I was saying that's one of the things I would like to see from him a little bit more. And he showcases that right here, just does a good job at being able to get to the running back, close the distance very, very quickly, wrap him up, and prevent any yards after the catch. So right here we have another beautiful play. Him being able to contribute in a run fits, man, just being able to come downhill and make a tackle. And that's one of the things that he's very good at as well, is just being able to be a downhill player, being able to come down and being willing to stick his helmet in there and put a hat on somebody. But it's one of those things to where sometimes too, especially being a safety, you have to be a little hesitant in a sense, just because you have to always play the pass as well. Because if you come downhill over aggressively more times than not, good offensive coordinators are going to be able to see that, and they're going to be able to play on your aggression. They're going to run play action passes and things to be able to take you out of position and be able to hit you over the top. So he does a good job at just being patient and kind of just reading this. It looks like he might have been possibly reading the tight end to see that when the tight end went out to block that, okay, this was a run play. And as soon as he noticed that it was a run play, the middle was kind of clogged up in terms of them being able to just get some penetration up front. So the running back was forced to just bounce that thing towards the outside. And he just does a good job at just tracking the running back on this play right here, tracking the inside hip and just being able to get downhill and to be able to secure the tackle. So right here, man, this was another beautiful play right here, man. This probably was the most beautiful play I've seen breaking down film on him in terms of being able to stop the run. So just notice how they put number 35 on him, which looks like that might have been a fullback tight end. They put number 35 on him to try to be able to secure that block up front. He just does a phenomenal job at just being able to just toss number 35 to the side. Like he just moved 35 to the side like he just was a little boy, man. Let's just take another look at that. Just look at how easily he just tossed him to the side and was able to help with on the game tackle with the running back. He just engages with him, boom, moves him out the way, and was able to help with the tackle. So you see that you got the guy that looks like he got some orange gloves. Yeah, the guy that was in front of him, he was able to just be able to also get past his guy, beat his guy to the punch, and be able to get in the backfield and grab a hold to the legs. But JayQuan Snell just does a good job at being able to move 35 to the side like he was a little kid and be able to come at the top. So you had the guy on with the guy that was in front of him on the bottom that had the legs wrapped up, and you had him to be able to kind of just put the icing on the cake with being able to secure the top part of him, and they just drove him into the ground to keep him from getting into the end zone. So on this play right here, he just does a good job with his eye discipline, just being able to read the quarterback's eyes. It looked like they were in a cover one, and this time he was the deep defender. So obviously the role of in a cover one, the role of the deep defender in terms of if it's the strong safety or the free safety is you want to stay over the top of everything. So a part of that comes to kind of just reading the quarterback eyes, and he was just able to do that. Obviously the pass rush and the initial coverage, good coverage downfield, made the quarterback have to get off of his square and kind of have to roll out. But once again, he just does a good job at being able to track it. You see that he got his eyes on the quarterback, but then he also is aware that you have a guy that was a possible receiving threat right there. But the pressure kind of was able to close in on the quarterback, leading to him having to get rid of the ball much quicker than what he may have wanted to. But it was just good eye discipline on JayQuan Snell's part to be able to just keep his eyes on the quarterback. And then it was just a good job on the defensive line to be able to, just get some pressure up front to make the quarterback have to get out, roll out of the pocket. So that was just this play right here was just an example of the front seven working together with the secondary to just take away options for the offense to go with the football. So right here, man, you see him just coming downhill like he was shot out of a rocket, man. And to play at the speed that he plays the game at, it shows you that his preparation game to game has to be on a high level, right? And the reason why I say that is because when you're preparing for the game and you're studying film or whatever the case may be, you're looking at an offense, you saying, okay, what do they like to run out of this formation and what do they like to run out of this formation on a down and distance, right? So what you're seeing on film more times than not is going to materialize on the field on game day. So once you've already prepared and you know exactly what it is that the offense is trying to do, you're able to react so much quicker than everybody else is. So it's almost like you see the game at a slower pace than everyone else does, which allows for you to play at a much higher pace than everyone else does. And one thing I noticed about him too is that whenever he comes downhill to make a tackle, or even if it's making a tackle not necessarily in the backfield, whenever he tackles you, period, put it like that, more times than not, you're going down to the ground. It's not going to be one of them situations where he's going to hit you and you're going to fall forward for an additional 2 or 3 yards. Nah, most of the time when he come downhill and lay that pop to you, you're going down to the ground immediately. So watching this dude for me, man, is almost the equivalent to what I feel like paint enthusiasts, people who love paint, are probably how they feel probably watching some of the great painters, Da Vinci, guys like that. That's how I feel watching him play, man. Just being able to see what he does in pass coverage and then also being able to see that level of physicality he brings to being able to stop the run. Like, look at him coming from where he's lined up at on the field. He's coming downhill once again, man. And this was just beautiful form on him. Like I said, a lot of his clips I seen early early on was him kind of just, throwing his body into the defenders. And I was like, man, one of the things I would like to see is him kind of just being able to wrap guys up. And he just showcases perfect form right here on this play, man, just being able to get downhill, being able to get into a good tackling stance, get his shoulders square, man, and just be able to wrap the defender up and just drive him into the ground. Let's take another look at that, man. Just being able to just wrap him up and just drive him into the ground, man. That's a beauty to see that. And like I say, man, just look at where he's coming from in terms of the positioning. This dude is deep into the backfield. It looks like they're probably running a too high coverage. So he's coming deep from the backfield to be able to come up and to be able to secure this tackle, man. And like I say, this is the type of stuff that you want to see. And man, this kid has a very bright future ahead of him. So it looks like right here they matched up in man-to-man coverage again. You got JayQuan Snell matched up in a slot against another receiver, and man, this was just phenomenal coverage again. You see that he's playing off man-to-man, which you see that that's what they run a lot of, especially with him. But I think that more times than not in the slot, you're going to have off man-to-man coverage there. So he just does a good job at just being able to, man, just take away that option on this play. So once again, he just does a good job at mirroring the receiver's steps, man. And that's one, like I said, that's one of the things that stands out to me the most watching him in pass coverage is just his level of patience that he has. He never really seems like he's ever overwhelmed. He never really panics. He never really just kind of overreact. It's like he's always cool and he's always cool and composed. And that's very impressive considering that these highlights that we're watching is from his sophomore campaign and his junior campaign so far. Just seeing how he played against Duncanville is probably going to be all the same as well. But it's just impressive to see that from a younger guy just like as himself. So he just does a good job at kind of just mirroring the receiver's steps. Obviously, the quarterback rolls out the pocket to be able to extend the play, but he just does a good job at being able to stay glued to that guy as well and not, being undisciplined. And as soon as he sees the quarterback take off running, just abandoning his assignment and trying to come make a play on the quarterback, which could lead to the quarterback having explosive plays. So he just does a good job at being disciplined in the assignment, man. So, man, like I say, man, just this kid right here was phenomenal to watch. Like I said, man, just seeing what he did in that Duncanville game against one of the best teams in Texas, and not, like I said, not just Texas, but one of the best teams in the nation, and just seeing how he was able to kind of take over. Like me and my buddy always say, like, he just really looked like a man amongst boys. He kind of just was out there doing whatever he was wanting to do. He just made that a bad day for that Duncanville offense, but I've realized breaking down film on him that it's not just against Duncanville. That's almost against every team that they play against. And like I said, once again, this is impressive considering that this is only from his sophomore campaign. So he still has 2 solid years to be able to grow and to be able to get better. So, man, like I said, man, this kid has a bright future ahead of him if he can just stay locked in and keep getting better and better game after game, year after year. Man, there's no telling of how far he could actually be. But, man, if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, man. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell turned on, and way you be notified every time I upload. And I'll see y'all in the next video.